all you need to know, the Bloomberg Quint podcast that prepares you for the day's business.
Good morning and thanks for listening in. This is the daily morning update from Bloomberg Quint and I'm Alex Matthew. The signs continue to be good on the COVID front here in India. We're still waiting for the rollout of the vaccine, but India's fresh cases continue to rise at a much slower pace than was being recorded even a couple of weeks back. In the 24 hours to 8 a.m. yesterday, the country reported just over 24,000 fresh cases, taking the total tally to 99.5 lakh. But because of the slower pace of additions and the number of recoveries daily, the number of active cases has now dropped to just about 3.3 lakh. To give you a little context, the US is currently adding over 2 lakh cases daily. Now, speaking of the US, investors have already looked past the Federal Reserve's policy meeting and are now hopeful of a fiscal stimulus deal being announced imminently. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said a bipartisan deal appears to be close at hand, but it will likely require work over the weekend to get through both chambers of Congress. A White House spokesperson said that the Trump administration is optimistic about a deal coming through within 48 hours. Leaders want to attach the pandemic relief plan to a $1.4 trillion bill that would fuel the federal government through the end of the financial year on the 30th of September. That legislation has to pass by today in the US in order to avert a partial government shutdown unless another temporary stopgap bill can be employed. And while we're on the topic of the US economy, applications for US state unemployment benefits unexpectedly jumped to the highest level in 3 months last week, suggesting that the labor market's recovery is faltering amid the surge in COVID-19 cases and widening business restrictions. Initial jobless claims in regular state programs rose by 23,000 to 885,000 in the week ended the 12th of December, according to Labor Department data. Back home, the Supreme Court has said that there is no precondition that a person approaching the Competition Commission of India must be personally aggrieved by the act. The judgment set aside the NCLAT's conclusion on right to approach the CCI and in doing so restored the playing field as level to consumers and informants. The Supreme Court was hearing an appeal against the NCLAT judgment that declined to interfere with the CCI decision. The CCI had declined to direct an investigation into allegations of a violation of competition law by cab aggregators Ola and Uber. Ikea will open its second store in India in Mumbai today, where it expects footfalls of over 5 million over the next 12 months. The Swedish furniture giant also plans to open 2 smaller format stores in Mumbai in the next 12 months to be more accessible to customers within city limits. The store that's opening up is on the Thane Belapur Road in New Mumbai. If you've been paying attention to the flow of capital into India's equity market, you'll be interested to know that a significant milestone was breached yesterday. Foreign institutional investors have now pumped in over 1 lakh crore rupees into the Indian equity markets in just 33 trading sessions that started on the 2nd of November. In more international news, the US Nuclear Weapons Agency and at least 3 states were hacked as part of a suspected Russian cyber attack that struck several federal government agencies. The hack affected unclassified systems, according to a person familiar with the matter. While President Donald Trump is yet to publicly address the hack, President-elect Joe Biden has issued a statement that said that he intends to make cybersecurity a top priority. In international markets, US stocks rose to record highs in anticipation of the relief measures. The Dow and the S&P 500 climbed about 0.5% each, while the Nasdaq ended higher by 0.8%. In the Asia-Pacific region, it's a bit of a mixed start to the end of the week, with 2 of the 3 early risers trading flat to negative. And with that, it's over to Hormuz Fatakia for the trade setup for the day in India. Morning, Hormuz. How are we looking today?
Good morning to you, Alex, and to those tuned in as well. I usually don't begin with an IPO update, but the response to Mrs. Bector's Foods IPO certainly deserves a mention at the top of the pecking order. The issue became the most subscribed Indian IPO since 2017, getting an overall subscription of close to 200 times on the final day of bidding. The institutional portion was subscribed 178 times, the non-institutional portion was subscribed 625 times, while the retail portion saw overall subscription of close to 30 times. The last instance of an IPO receiving such a response was Salazar Techno Engineering's IPO in July of 2017, which was subscribed 273 times. Now let me take you through the stocks that you should be watching out for today before we turn our attention to the markets. First up, Zee Entertainment has announced that it will be acquiring the film production and distribution business on a slump sale basis from Zee Studio, which is a wholly owned subsidiary, for a cash consideration of 275 crore rupees. Now the transaction falls under the ambit of a related party transaction and is expected to be completed in the next 2 months. The board has also approved the transfer of the digital publishing business to Rapid Cube Technologies. BPCL had announced on Tuesday that it will be holding a board meeting on Thursday to consider 3 proposals. 1. To acquire the remaining stake in Bharat Oman refineries. 2. To merge Bharat Gas with itself. And 3. To approach the government of Madhya Pradesh to acquire the remaining 2.69 lakh warrants that it holds in Bharat Oman refineries. The company at its board meeting on Thursday has given its approval to all the 3 proposals. Dishman Carbogen's promoter Adimans Technologies plans to sell close to 69 lakh shares of the company through an offer for sale. The share sale represents 4.4% of the total paid up equity share capital. The company will retain a greenshoe option to sell another 69 lakh shares. The floor price of 145.7 rupees a share is a 6% discount to Thursday's closing price. The OFS opens for non-retail investors today and for retail investors on Monday. Watch out for IT stocks today. Accenture reported a strong quarterly performance where overall bookings were up 25% from last year and growth was led by health and public service, outsourcing and the financial services business. More importantly, it has revised its FY21 revenue guidance upwards to 4 to 6% from the earlier 2 to 5%. ISGEC Heavy Engineering has won a new order from KPR Sugar Apparels to set up a 10,000 tons of cane per day or TCD sulfurless sugar plant, a 40 megawatt cogeneration plant among other orders on an EPC basis. The orders are valued at 431 crore rupees. Defense stocks will be in focus today as the Defense Acquisition Council has approved proposals to procure equipment worth 27,000 crore rupees from the Indian industry. Overall orders for acquiring weapons, equipments, platforms and systems stood at 28,000 crore rupees. Speaking of defense stocks, Purinju Veliat's Equity Intelligence India has acquired 0.6% stake in BEML on Thursday at just over 847 rupees a share. The stock ended 10.5% higher at the highest level since February this year. Let me now talk about the markets. The Nifty and the Sensex are on course for their 7th straight weekly advance. As of closing on Thursday, both the benchmark indices are up 1.7% for the week. The last time both the indices gained for 7 straight weeks was back in April of 2019. Another major factor for this surge has been the FII flows, which within the last 6 weeks starting November has crossed the mark of 1 lakh crore. Sun TV has become the new entrant to the F&O ban along with Canara Bank and Punjab National Bank. Speaking of the F&O space, 3 new contracts get added next month and those 3 are HDFC AMC, Dr. Lal Pathlabs and Aarti Industries. So keep a watch on these. Early ticks on the SGX Nifty show that the index traded 20 points higher around the mark of 13,770. That's all from me this week. I wish you all a happier weekend and it's back to you, Alex.
Thanks, Hormuz, and as always, thank you all for listening in. This is Alex Matthews signing off. Have a great end to the week and an amazing weekend.
I hope you enjoyed listening to All You Need to Know. Did you know that you could listen to the show on the IVM Podcast app? On the IVM Podcast app, along with this, we have a number of other shows which you think you'll enjoy. Listen to Cyrus Says with Cyrus Brocha as the host. Listen to Pesa Vesa with Anupam Gupta. The Scene and the Unseen with Amit Verma. Or Shunya One hosted by Shiladitya Mukhopadhyay and myself. Check out the IVM Podcast app to get more talk content that you will enjoy.